Hello, hello, and welcome to the Balance Mama Project Radio. Today we have with us Dr. Say, hey, and then we also have Dr. Val.
Hello.
And we are welcoming back our special guest, Alexis Brooks, registered dietitian. To get the full rundown, please check out our last episode where we did a deeper dive into nutrition, fertility, and nutrition with endometriosis and other challenges that may come up in the body. And so today, Alexis, we're excited to have you here with us. We're going to be doing a deeper dive into renourishing the body in the postpartum time period. We know there's a lot of hormonal ups and downs, emotional ups and downs, and even physical and environmental changes that are going on. And so we're excited to have you here with us, and we're ready to get into it.
Yes, thanks for coming. Thanks for coming back, I should say.
Yes, thank you for inviting me back.
Yes, it's our pleasure. I'm really interested in this topic today, just as we talk about postpartum nutrition and replenishing the body. It can be a really depleting time, just if we're feeding baby, or if we're doing formula feeding. It's depleting for a lot of reasons, for sleep reasons, but also for nutritional reasons. And I don't know that that's focused on enough. We focus on, returning back to movement. We focus on, the sleep hygiene. But when I think about postpartum period, sometimes it's just focused on what can you do to produce more milk, or what can you do, to avoid even postpartum depression. Sometimes there's talks about eating more fish and things like that. But can you speak a little bit more about what it means to replenish the body in postpartum, what that looks like nutritionally, and then maybe dive into what you see in your practice?
Absolutely. So I think one thing for us to remember, kind of what you alluded to, is we don't really talk much about this phase. Kind of like the baby is here, we're like, okay, cool, like baby's here, let's take care of baby, and the attention really gets diverted. But remembering that this is actually a nickname for the postpartum is our fourth trimester, so our bodies are still definitely going through transitions. Whether or not we're breastfeeding, there's still a lot that happened in that time, and there's a lot of depletion that happens. So even thinking about, whether or not were prepared during the pregnancy and like fully nourishing our bodies, there's a lot of change. And one of those changes is our hormones are changing, of course. And that can also affect how the rest of our body is functioning. So some key things that we do need in terms of nourishment in the postpartum period, you hit it, is omega-3s. That's super important. And there is a lot of research around how it can affect depression and anxiety postpartum. So it is important, if we like fish, definitely adding fish in. If you don't like it, still add it in. No, I'm just kidding. No, if you like it, add in like sea batter fish oil, like a high quality fish oil. But otherwise, fatty fish like salmon, sardines, these are really great sources to be able to bring those levels up. Vitamin D can drop during this time too. And vitamin D is, it's actually considered a prohormone. So it's a vitamin, but it's also like a hormone. And it impacts our immune system, and impacts our cellular function. There's like a ton of things that vitamin D really does. So when it drops, we can feel it. Already postpartum, where we could be extremely fatigued, but that could be another layer on top of it. There's not a ton of food sources for vitamin D, but there's a few. So actually going back to like some of the fatty fish, we can get it from there. We can get it from eggs, eating the full egg. We can get some vitamin D from that yolk. Mushrooms that were sitting in the sun, they actually have vitamin D. And that's kind of like the extent of like what we get in terms of food. So I always recommend people rechecking vitamin D as one of them, rechecking vitamin D postpartum to see where their levels are at, and then supplementing accordingly. Selenium is another one that is specific to our thyroid. So those needs can also change in the postpartum period. Having low thyroid is super common after giving birth. So thyroid can definitely be impacted. And where we can get that from is it's a mineral. It's comes from Brazil nuts. Maybe you've heard of like having like one or two Brazil nuts a day can give you the selenium that you need. Um, sea animal or sea animals, seafood also has selenium. And even like sea vegetables like kelp or seaweed has selenium too. So those
Interesting.
are a couple, but there's quite a bit, but those are some key ones that definitely need attention.
Does all seafood have, or is it just shellfish, or what? I guess if people have a shellfish allergy, they can
Mm.
use the Brazil nuts, but does all seafood have selenium in it?
All seafood has selenium.
Wow. Good to
Yeah.
know. Very good to
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I like that. I was gonna say, I don't even hear selenium mentioned as a common thing to have. So when you're like, yes, and this is also important, I'm like, oh, that is helpful. So we have vitamin D. We have our omega 3s. I even like
Mhm.
that you say, yeah, you can always do fish oil for those who are not necessarily eating fish. I love fish, but that's not everybody's. That's not
Mhm.
everybody's run.
Mhm.
And so I know something else that can come up, well, even during the pregnancy time period transitioning into postpartum, inflammation. And so during the pregnancy time period, inflammation can be a quite quite the combatter. Whether we're talking about swelling in the limbs and then transitioning even into the postpartum time period.
Mhm.
Um, some of the inflammation in the body. I was like, you still see people trying to decrease swelling in those first few days, trying to kind of get back to baseline.
Mhm.
What are some foods or some habits that can help with lowering inflammation in the body?
Yeah, so I guess some foods I would lean to vitamins A, C, and E. Those are antioxidants, so they will help to reduce inflammation. Vitamin C, for example, are these like the are usually brightly pigmented fruits and vegetables. So that's like bell peppers. Citrus will be vitamin C. Kiwi is actually a really excellent source of vitamin C too. Um, uh, what else am I thinking? Berries. So those are our vitamin C. Vitamin A, that's more of like our orange type vegetables like carrots, sweet potatoes. An excellent source of vitamin A. Not to push liver back on everybody.
Here she goes, delivering it now.
Look,
That is the highest possible source is organ meats, but yeah, we can get it from vegetables too, like more like the orange vegetables. And then vitamin E, that's usually our there's usually it's coming from fat. So like sunflower seeds is a good source, avocado another great source of vitamin E. So those can be some things we add in. In terms of habits, I would say if we can get a few different colors with each meal, so getting three different colors with each meal, that would be something that can begin to reduce that inflammation because we're getting antioxidants from those colors, different colors attached to different antioxidants. So that's what actually gives fruits and vegetables their colors. Even if you're able to just like add a spoonful of a different color to your plate, that will count as another source of a color.
That's great. Colorful plates. Keep
yeah.
the plates colorful.
Yes,
And
I was
even
gonna say,
yeah, like I was gonna say, like I know like during postpartum there's a lot of running around and like just kind of making it work however it can. So even if it's not like a full on meal, even if we're just like we have like a plate of like random snacks and things, like can we get some color there?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
my grandma used to always say that. When I tell you, my mom and my grandma just they're like, eat all the different colors. They're like, you have something orange on your plate? Is something green on your plate? And so now I think that's
Aw.
one of the family mottos because it's like, okay, now we see, I say the younger generation, we're not even Mimas and Pop Pops at this point, but you see the younger people, so you're gonna add some color to your plate. And
Uh-huh.
so I like even the statement like antioxidants. There are different ones for different colors. So there is
Mm-hmm.
validity even to the
Yes,
colorful plate rule.
There
that's what I'm
is.
talking about.
There is. Okay, so with postpartum and specifically feeling depleted of nutrients, how does that affect the menstrual cycle and overall health, even further into the postpartum period?
Hmm. Absolutely, we can see disruptions in the menstrual cycle because having nutrient depletions can either delay the menstrual cycle or like delay ovulation, delay a period coming. Also, people may experience when their periods do resume that they're not as they're not as peaceful as calm. Like they maybe are heavier bleeds, maybe there's pain that's coming with it, and that can be from having deficiencies actually. So iron deficiencies, vitamin D deficiency, magnesium deficiencies, those can all create those issues. So we can definitely see that, or irregularity as hormones are rebounding back. The period may not be as regular yet, but the more the meals are balanced and these different components are added in, it could help out with being able to get things back on track.
Mhm.
Um, you asked me another question too. Oh, beyond postpartum, right?
Yeah,
Um,
later on, health issues, if there are any that maybe pop up later on related to depletion postpartum.
yeah, okay, so I would say definitely insulin resistance, so dipping into like pre-diabetes or risk for diabetes can be a thing. And something to know about like pregnancy is that it is a triggering event.
Mhm.
So when we think about autoimmunity, a lot of autoimmunity in women happens after giving birth because
Mhm.
it can be a triggering event. So
Mhm.
it doesn't mean that it causes an autoimmune condition, but if we already have the genetics, we already have like a predisposition. What's left is a triggering event that could actually create it. So Hashimoto's is really common postpartum, and there's like just a few other autoimmune conditions too. So that can be just another reason why it's so important for us to support our bodies. I think so. Insulin resistance, so making sure that we're mindful about PFF, the protein, fat, fiber, with every meal and snack. Like having that
Yeah.
composition will support us to prevent insulin resistance and diabetes, anything like that.
Yeah.
Women are we get cardiac strokes and heart disease at the higher rate than men, and Black women specifically get them younger. Um, there's some research that shows that Black women tend to get get these conditions in their 30s, and it may
Mhm.
not necessarily manifest. We may not know it until later on, but the beginning stages of cardiovascular disease can start in Black women in their 30s.
Mhm.
So when we think about these things compounding, we see how important it is to like really support our body, our heart health, our brain health. All these things really matter, and may not happen immediately, but it can happen gradually over time. But we can also support our bodies gradually and make these modifications to our lifestyle to prevent that.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's such a good thing to note that, hey, even in your 30s, if you don't see anything happening in the body, that doesn't mean that the body isn't going through natural changes. And so making the small changes now before any scaries show up is a great, or like a great preventative task and just a great overall wellness focus, saying, hey, I want to be healthy in the long term.
Mhm.
What are some common eating habits that unintentionally either worsen, let's say, hormonal symptoms or cardiovascular? Like, what are some common habits that, let's say, postpartum mommies? I'm not trying to target the gang. Folks who are in their busier states of life, what have you seen people pick up as a habit that might worsen or
Mm,
contribute to some of these cardiovascular or hormonal issues?
okay. I would say two main drivers that I see is skipping meals or general like inconsistent eating patterns. And then also
Clutching
I
pearls.
feel I feel targeted. No.
But not trying to target as we target people.
as we're shooting our eyes over. No, I'm just kidding.
No, we need to hear it. Keep going.
Okay, brace yourself, everyone. Yeah, it's the inconsistent eating habits. So that's like patterns. So that means like skipping meals or maybe going really long periods of time without eating. That
Mhm.
absolutely will hit the cardiovascular system as a whole,
Mhm.
but metabolically. So that our insulin and our cortisol levels can definitely be affected by that. Because when we're
Mhm.
skipping, our body really wants to keep us safe. So it's like, well, let me make sure we got enough sugar in the human because the
Yeah.
human's not eating, so cortisol is going to go up to bring blood sugar up, and then
Mm.
it can overshoot, And
Yeah.
then insulin will then go up to meet it to help bring the sugar back down, and it becomes a cycle. So that's how insulin resistance can be created over time if we have that constant trigger of insulin shooting up.
Yeah, I actually was recently reading an article about when cortisol goes up, you crave sugar. And so then with that, then you're eating the sugar, and then your insulin's like, wait, wait, wait,
Too
hold on,
much.
it's too much. And so when you talk about that cascade and that cycle, that makes a lot of sense. But then it's interesting how um, that sugar craving comes with the increased cortisol, because increased cortisol can come with stress. And we knew that black and brown individuals a lot of times experience a higher prevalence of stress in day-to-day life due to external stressors and factors. And so it's just interesting how then you can think about how that influences diet a lot of times as well, or maybe even cultural preferences or norms in food and intake. So it's all very interesting, evolutionarily and just culturally. So I find that fascinating. I also, in the postpartum period, we did a meal train because I knew that I wasn't necessarily going to focus on food, and so we did a meal train, and a lot of our family and friends brought over some food. I remember one of my really close friends. She is from India, and she made this delicious, I don't know if I should call it a stew or excuse me, a stew or a soup, but it was hearty with all the colors. It was super colorful. And I also think about how another one of my friends, who is Nigerian, she also brought over some true stew and meats and things like that for me to consume. And that makes me think about ancestral nutrition, ancestral medicine through food. Can you speak more to how some of these practices are ones that we might want to incorporate even in this Western society, and what we should consider?
Yeah, first of all, I'm so happy that you had a meal train. Like that's such an amazing idea, and like how supportive of your village and community to come together to support you in that way as you're caring for a brand new baby and trying to take care of yourself too. So those specific foods that you mentioned, those are highly recommended, and foods are really common, I guess, outside of the Western world of like having these soups and stews and these warm foods after giving birth, like how nourishing that is for the body. Bone broth is another one too that is really common to be added in postpartum. But when we think about those foods, inherently, I imagine, and just thinking about like other cultures, like they're not thinking about like, let's make sure we have this color. They already are doing it. Like it's like second nature. They're not necessarily having to figure out like, does that have vitamin C, or I don't know about the magnesium though. So they already are adding these foods that they know they're gonna have colorful foods. They're incorporating herbs and spices and how those are actually anti-inflammatory too. So
Yeah,
um, it's interesting, like when we in the Western world, we need a name for everything.
right. We need a reason to do things. It's like it's not
Yeah.
ingrained enough, so we need to, like, this is gonna give me this. This is gonna give me this.
hmm
That is true.
Such a hyper focus.
Versus just being like, yeah, this tastes good, and and there are different colors, and yes, when you
Yeah.
mention different herbal seasonings and things like that, different teas, different foods, yeah, it is
I
really
think
interesting.
yeah. So I think a lot of that is a good reminder for us too. If we eat real food, a variety of it, we're like off to a good start. So that means like
Mhm.
eating all the herbs, eating all the spices, eating all the fruits and veggies and the nuts and seeds, eating real food that's available to us, the
Yeah.
meats, the like all the even as long as as long as you don't have an intolerance or anything like that, but like eating the products of the animal too, if that's available to you. And
Mhm.
that's what other cultures around the world do, and there is a lot of nutritional benefit from that too. We're getting when we eat foods in their whole form in that way, we're actually getting even more nutrients, and something that we can't necessarily create in like a supplement. Because in food, in real food, there's a variety of nutrients that live together, and there's a synergy between them. So when we take, for example, vitamin A by itself, it's very different than eating a vitamin A rich food that also has maybe some magnesium or zinc in there, or like some other things that are mixed in. It's very different because they work together.
Yes. Yeah.
That's such a good point. I even think on the last podcast, I'm trying to remember exactly what you said, but something was like vitamin D and calcium or vitamin D and something else. Typically, you'll see them show up together in the food source because you need one, or is it vitamin D, vitamin C? I cannot remember. However, one thing where it's like you need one to process the other, and they naturally occur together versus if someone's man-made, like, okay, I'm going to put these things together and maybe just not have the dietitian knowledge to say, if you're going to have vitamin A, or I meant that not in vitamin A sense, but if you're going to have this vitamin, then you need this other vitamin or mineral or resource to process it.
Absolutely. That actually, just to add a nuance to that, that is a big distinction between even vegetarian and non-vegetarian ways of eating. So in animal products, those things are naturally occurring. So to your point, I think we were talking about iron and vitamin C, how
Yes.
even when we think about forms of iron, there's heme and non-heme. So the heme is the meat source or animal source, and then the non-heme is the plant source. So the non-heme, we need to make sure we add vitamin C. So for say we're vegetarian and we're trying to get iron, lentils and spinach are great sources of iron. But we need to make sure that there's a source of vitamin C to be able to help that absorption. But in an animal product, it would already, those things kind of, it's heme, so it's already, the absorption is there. Not to say that one is superior to the other, but it's an example of if we're eating a variety of foods and like our diet is expansive as possible, we're more likely to target those things naturally.
We stay on the iron topic, and I think we might have done a deeper dive, but I've had a couple of mommies who have had issues with either postpartum, recovering and supporting their iron levels in the postpartum time period, whether it's hemorrhaging, whether it's cesarean, whether there's a lot of birthing events that can happen. But even outside of just iron supplements, what are some iron-rich foods? I feel like liver is going to come back up.
Go ahead and say it.
Iron-rich foods.
The liver,
And ways to keep from being constipated with the iron-rich foods. I got to pair them.
Right. Yeah, organ meats can help.
Yeah.
That is true, or the capsule form. Aside from that, sorry, I think you said aside from supplementation. So, seafood, chicken, like those meat sources, if not having the iron plus, depending on or in a plant source, but depending on how severe the anemia is, so I think oftentimes they have to work together. There are some strategies that can be helpful though, so we can literally add iron to our food. So in the sense of if you have like a skillet, an iron cast iron skillet, if you're cooking in that, the iron actually leaches into your food, and that's a good thing. It's not the same thing as like microplastics or like PFAS going into your food, but it's a good thing. So that might be a tool if that's available. There's also there's a little, it's called Lucky Iron Fish, and it's literally you guys, I don't know if you've seen this before, but it's a little fish, it's about this size. It's made out of iron, and you add it to your food, and you would add it specifically to a liquid.
I got to look it up.
I'm over here like, we say more. Lucky Iron Fish. Everybody look it up right now.
Right now.
That look like.
Oh
So
my
you would
goodness.
add it to anything that's a liquid, and first you would basically you would boil it. So say you're making, you can even do
Oh.
it regular water actually. You could boil it with water, and then you would remove remove the fish, and then it would have iron in it, and then you can cool it down and use the water how you normally would. So you can make your pasta with it, you can make your rice, whatever.
Why?
Do you taste it though? Do you taste it?
No.
Okay, so that's actually good to know because I sometimes try to sneak cod liver oil into into things because I can take the capsule, but my daughter can't.
Yeah.
And so, sometimes sorry, Shiloh, when you're listening to this when you get older. I do try to sneak cod liver oil into like her smoothies. One time though, I tried to sneak it into her tea, and she was like, absolutely
She
not.
tasted.
Yeah, she tasted it. She was like,
She
this
said.
is terrible. But I'm gonna have to look up this lucky fish because
Is you trying to trick her being like, no ma'am.
no man.
No ma'am.
She's a smart almost 3-year-old. She was like, absolutely not.
Might be like,
Yeah.
tastes
This
like lucky iron fish.
lucky iron fish. Noted. Sneakier.
And ways to not be constipated with our iron boost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, a lot of times it's a supplementation that can make us more constipated versus a food source. But
Okay.
with the supplementation source, it's helpful if it's in the form of bisglycinate or biglycinate. It's a different form of iron versus like ferrous iron. Is it ferrous? I think that's what or sulfate, iron sulfate. Those can be more constipating forms. So the form itself could be helpful, and typically not as much from food sources.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay.
That's good to know.
Very good to know. Very good to know. This has been really, really helpful. I took away a lot of things per usual. I have to say that if people who are listening to this one, if they have not listened to the first episode that we had with you, definitely check that out. One thing that I took away from that was a PFF. I kid you not, Alexis, the next time I went to the grocery store, guess who got a meat stick? I said, no, I'm not going to be without my PFF. I'm going to have my protein snack. So definitely taking all that you're saying into heart. Is there anything else that you want to add that we didn't touch on today?
I would say I'll offer this to be gentle with yourself, and that this time period is very dynamic and it's intense and there's a lot going on. So being gentle and also like having moments to yourself to where you're able to tap in back into yourself, even if it's like 1 minute, 60 seconds, you're doing a check-in of what do I need right now? Bringing that awareness back to your body. And that thing might be like, oh, I've been holding my bladder for a really long time. I should probably pee.
Yeah.
Or I haven't eaten in 6 hours. Like maybe that's a question you ask yourself. And oh, you know what? I need to nourish myself. Maybe it's something really quick that I can grab right now. Maybe it's not a meal, but I need to nourish myself. Maybe that means I need to drink some water. I haven't refilled. I'm looking at my water bottle now and it's empty. Let me fill that up. So taking 60 seconds, whatever you can, maybe it's a couple times out the day, but being able to check in with yourself so that you can then address and nurture yourself too.
Yes. Putting yourself first.
I love it.
First priority.
Can we also, I know you told us how to connect with you last time, but you are a wealth of knowledge and our listeners might like to connect with you as their dietitian. So please, can you tell us how to find you and where to find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook, actually TikTok too, but I'm mostly on Instagram at Alexis Brooks Nutrition, and then my website is alexisbrooksnutrition.com.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for coming back for round 2. We really appreciated it.
Oh, I have fun. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Stay balanced, mamas. We'll see you next time.